Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next lesson. And we're going to look at super cities. Super cities, well, how do you define super? Big, modern, environmentally friendly. We're going to look at that. But the quote sort of gives us a clue already. The city is not a concrete jungle, it is a human zoo. And what Desmond Morris was mentioning is that it's the people that make the city, not the buildings. And so this is quite interesting. And for those who've been to different parts of the world, you notice that people in different countries of different cities behave and react differently. There's a different vibe, there's a different atmosphere. And I'm wondering which city in the world most relates or easily, sort of relates. Do you understand the best? Which city do you like the most? Which city do you feel the most comfortable in? This is an interesting question. Now, for some of you who haven't traveled much yet, that's a question you'll be answering or asking and then answering every time you visit somewhere. Instinctively and maybe subconsciously, you'll be asking, could I live here? And you'll have an answer. Could you live in other places? I think by the end of it, you'll say, probably. Some of us know. Some of us, home will always be home. But for others, we're more mobile. We can move more easily. We're going to look at cities through, as we discuss grammar, the grammar issue of countable and plural nouns. These can be difficult, so we're going to have to focus and concentrate. Word building with prefixes and suffixes. Prefixes go at the beginning, predisposition, or at the end, pavement, M-E-N-T. So we have prefixes and suffixes, and when we put those on the words, they often change the function from a verb to an adjective, or a verb to a noun, or an adjective to a noun, and sometimes from a noun to a different noun. That's interesting too. And then finally, the pronunciation. Word stresses. What happens to the word stress, or the stress in a word, when we add a prefix or a suffix? I'll give you the spoiler, not much. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to start with listening. You're going to do the listening, but I want to say that I hope we're taking the listening seriously. As I've said many times, if you understand what someone is talking about or telling you, you are much more confident in your answer. But if there is a doubt in the back of your mind, like you're 90%, 80% sure, but not 100% sure of what they said, then your speaking becomes tentative. Oh, I'm going to write that word down because you might not know that. If your speaking becomes tentative, it means that it's not confident. If you're tentative, you're not confident because you're not sure you're doing the right thing. So if you make a tentative step, that means your attempt, whatever you're doing, was lacking in confidence. And that lack of confidence in speaking often comes from your being uncertain if you understood the question or what the other person was saying. So ask yourself after these listenings, how much of that did I understand? Because that will translate means it's parallel. That will translate directly into real life. If you understand 80% of the audio, you'll understand 70 or 60% of real life. So there's no magic. If you're not doing great in the listening, if you have to listen to it 4 times, you're going to struggle when a native speaker talks to you because you're going to think, oh, that's a strange accent, or wow, they speak fast. So try to get the listening up to 100%. So in real life, it'll be 90 or 80, which is very, very high. And then you can have a really interesting conversation. So really take the listening seriously. All right, so you're going to do that. They ask some questions that will require you to think about these circumspectly. Circumspectly means around, thoroughly. So which city do you think they're going to say? Listen to the first sentences and check. So you're going to guess, anticipate the answer, and then you're going to actually hear it. All right, so that's the listening part. I'm not going to do that, but you're going to. And then we're going to go to the grammar. And the grammar, this is where it starts to get interesting. Circle the correct form. Let's do it together. I'm going to read it. Pause the recording if you want a few minutes to think about your answer. Here we go. A good city guide will give you about what to see. Pause if you need more time. I'm going to go quick on these. We'll give you advice, not advices. Next, you may have some bad or if you go to London in March, you may have some bad weather. We don't count it. Next, in Rome and Paris, accommodation extremely is or accommodations are extremely expensive. What do you think? Accommodation is uncountable. It's best not to take too much luggage. It's best not to take too many luggages if you go on a city break, which sounds more natural. Too much luggage. We don't count luggage. Some of us might have a lot of baggage. That is a metaphor for having a troubled past. If someone says they've got a lot of baggage, it means they're carrying around a lot of hurtful emotions, maybe some anger from bad experiences or relationship in the past. They have a lot of baggage. But if you have a lot of luggage, it's just heavy, nothing more than that. It's physical and only physical. All right, next, number 5, the Old Town Center is amazing, but the outskirts is or are a bit depressing. What do you think? The outskirts are a bit depressing. I think that's right. We'll check it later. I think it's the outskirts are. And finally, I really liked the hotel. The rooms were beautiful and the staff was or were incredibly friendly. Well, this one's tricky because in America, we would say, in the United States, we would say the staff was. But in Britain, I think they might say the staff were because they think about all the individual staff. We in America think about staff as one big group. So the staff was or the staff were, both are correct. Now we're going to look at the grammar behind this and try to unravel it. Unravel means to sort of understand better. Unravel, R-A-V-E-L. All right, uncountable and plural nouns. I'm going to read these. We're not going to listen to the files on these. You're going to just listen. The weather was fantastic there, and there's very little traffic, so you can walk everywhere. The scenery is beautiful here, but it's spoiled by all the rubbish people leave. All right. Now, look at, if you notice here, number 1 corresponds with the rules related to number 1. So that's how the book is organized. The following nouns are always uncountable. Accommodation, behavior, health, politics. You might as well just try to remember these because they're pretty common words. You're going to use them or hear them a lot. Progress, rubbish. Rubbish, remember, rubbish is British, and the Americans use trash or garbage. Rubbish. Rubbish is used in many senses in Britain. So if someone says that's rubbish, it means what you're saying isn't valid. It's not worth anything. It's trash. Scenery, traffic, work, etc. So this is very, very helpful to remember these. All right. Uncountable nouns don't have a plural form. Sceneries, so here we are. We don't say the sceneries are beautiful. The sceneries then they use the sceneries is beautiful. No, we don't say that. The scenery is. The scenery is. We don't say sceneries are. These are uncountable. All right, don't use a or an with uncountable nouns. All right, we don't say there's a terrible traffic. No, there's terrible traffic is what we say. Let's look at number 2. Could you give me some advice about where to stay? I sure can. One useful piece of advice is to get a travel card. Now here, if you notice, advice, some advice is uncountable, but a piece is countable. So now this advice is countable because of piece. 2 pieces of advice, 3 pieces of advice, but you can only give some advice A lot of advice, a little advice, you just quantities, but not numerical quantities. All right, let's look at number 2. These are uncountable. Look at all of these that are uncountable. Advice, bread, equipment, etc. Go ahead and look at those. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to commit them to memory. If you commit them to memory, it means you make a decision or you focus on remembering them. Number 3, the new opera house is made mainly of glass. I have a glass of tap water. So notice, remember, this A tells us it's countable. This lack of an A with a singular tells us it's uncountable. Of glass is uncountable. A glass is one of these. So you can count those glasses. You can count these glasses, three pairs of glasses or 3 pair of glasses, but you can't count glass, the window glass. I have windows in front of me. You're not counting those. You can count 3 windows, but not 3 glasses of windows. Doesn't make sense. All right, let's look at the next one here. One of the now plural and collective nouns. Collective nouns are these group nouns. One of the best museums is on the outskirts of the city. My clothes, watch this, not clothes, close. I say close like the verb close the door, the command, close the door. I say the same thing here. My clothes are dirty or filthy. Filthy is dirty. Filthy is very dirty, actually. I'll put on some clean trousers. Now, we don't use trousers in America. We use pants or jeans. But interestingly, pants in the US, which are trousers or jeans, pants in the UK mean underwear. So you got to be careful. In England, you don't want to say, I'm going to wear pants to dinner. People might be afraid to meet you for dinner. I'll put on a pair of clean trousers. Again, that's very British. I'll put on a clean pair of slacks. Americans might say slacks or jeans or something, corduroys. The hotel staff are, here we have the plural. In America, we'd say the hotel staff is. And then finally, the cabin crew are. And again, in America, the US, we would say the cabin crew is coming around. So there's a difference in the American and the British in how they see collective nouns. Brits almost always see them in the plural, individuals. Americans almost always see them as a group, singular verbs. Singular noun, singular verb. So here we have arms. All of these are plural nouns with no singular. There's no arm. I have an arm, but arms means something else. These are guns, and it's only in the plural. So we have all these. If the word refers to something with 2 parts, it can be used with a pair of glasses. 2 parts, 1, 2. Crew, family, government, police are collective nouns, and again, they can refer to singular or plural. I've already told you the difference. Technically, the Brits can also use them as a singular. My family is, but honestly, they normally use it in the plural, but you can also use it in the singular. Police is always used with a plural verb. The police are coming. That's right. We don't say the police is coming. Wait, the police is coming. The police are coming. I think it's plural, always. Even in America, the police are coming. Okay. I hope they're not in your case, but you've got some questions and some exercises to do. Now, you're going to go ahead and these are great for speaking partners or perhaps during conversations during the live. So we're going to look at these, and it's a short little game. I think it's quite fun. And then we're going to move on to vocabulary. Now, most of the vocabulary is handled by the audio files, but we're going to look at the prefix and suffix. A prefix we've already looked at is that at the beginning, pre, un, dis. That a suffix is that at the end, meant, ins, full, etc. So you're going to answer these mainly here. You can go through these. I want you to practice these. And then you can go immediately to the vocabulary bank. Here we have common noun suffixes. These are good to know. These are very good. From verbs, we have these. From adjectives, we have these. And from nouns, we have these. Remember, we can change nouns from verbs, adjectives, and nouns. We mentioned that at the outset. And this is a very important point or points to remember. All right, you've got a lot of work to do. I'm going to take let's just see here. One thing here, noun formations with spelling or word change. Some nouns made from verbs or adjectives are completely different. Choose, choice, poor, poverty, sell, sale. I sold it, the sale went through. If the sale went through, that means it happened. It was executed. You execute a sale. All right, very good. And then you've got at the end some listening and pronunciation with stress. And remember, I mentioned at the very top of the hour, top of the video, at the very beginning, top of the video means beginning of the video, that when we add the prefix or suffix, look at this, multi-word syllables have a main stress syllable. They usually remains the main stress when we add a prefix or suffix. The accent, the stress doesn't normally change. It's good to remember that. All right. Happy studying. Got a lot to do here, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.